Good. Okay.
Okay. So I'm just putting in our Slack, just like a few things that hopefully we can go over in our introductions. I think I saw most of you at the main meeting, but I was late, so I think I missed half of your introductions. So if you wouldn't mind saying again your name and pronouns, location and/or time zone, and your code experience or journey to this point, just to give kind of like a nice background of what you've done until now. Guess since I'm already talking, I'll go first. So my name is Lauren, she, her. I'm located outside of Washington, D.C. in Maryland, so East Coast, and I'm originally from Buffalo, so I'm a big Buffalo Bills fan. But we're not meeting on Sundays in the fall, so it's okay. Everything's fine. And for my code journey, I started out as a musician. Well, I am a musician, but I went to school to be an orchestral performer. And I did math also, but it was more to fulfill requirements, and I like math. And then eventually I realized I didn't want to be a freelancer anymore. So I decided to go to Flatiron, and I went there in 2020, halfway through when COVID hit. Got my first job that summer, which is where I still am. And I did Collab Lab. I was a developer in TCL 10, and then I've mentored since then a few times. So very excited to work with you all. Lizzie, you're right under me, so I'll pass it to you.
Okay, my name is Lizzie Pine, she, her, hers. I live in Kona on the Big Island of Hawaii. So we're well known for Kona coffee, and the Ironman World Championship Triathlon is held here every October. And the most active volcanoes are also here, which is cool. I grew up in Massachusetts, but I've lived here since 2010, and I've been a school teacher since 2010. So I was originally a Teach for America teacher. I taught elementary school for 10 years. In about 2015, I realized I didn't want to be doing that forever. So I started learning HTML and CSS, and I became a freelance WordPress developer. So that's still kind of my bread and butter. And then about 2 years ago, I decided I really wanted to get more into computer science. So I did some coursework through UC San Diego to add an additional field to my teaching license. So now I teach computer science, and that's been about 1.5 years of that. And now I'm looking for my first full-time role after this school year. So anytime after June. So I'm, applying like crazy, doing the interviews, and just trying to get that first job at a full place. Let's pass it to Yufa.
Cool. Thank you for sharing. Let's see. So my name is Yufa, and my pronouns are she and her, and I'm located in Seattle, Washington, so Pacific time. My journey has been interesting. I pivoted a couple of times. So I started my career as executive assistant, and I love working with people. So naturally, I went to working in HR. And I found out like my interest in HR is solely on recruiting side of things. And I always found myself like playing with systems, ATS, and trying to automate things whenever we can, because I feel in HR is really paperwork, processes oriented. So that way I want to focus on human side of things, because, utilizing technology. And because of COVID, and I feel like if it's not now, I go all in, then when? So I started to really study and got into a boot camp, and I graduated from boot camp. It's called CodeSmith. Obviously, there are a lot of boot camps out there. I graduated from boot camp in January, and I started to really spend my time study, and also contributing to open source products, and also helping like some nonprofit organizations. So that's how I'm spending my time. And here I am. Let me pass it to Olivia.
Okay, dokies. Hi, my name is Olivia. I use she, her pronouns. I'm living in Calgary, Alberta. I just moved here 2 weeks ago. Before that, I lived in the Midwest for 5 years, and prior to that, some other countries, and I grew up in Ontario. I had a half-decade long career in technical apparel development. So in that career, I was the middle person between the creative design team and then the factories overseas that made garments. So I would fit them on a fit model and draw out like the blueprint that would get cut out of fabric and sewn into those garments. And I liked it. But after 5 years, I felt like I was really good at making jackets. And after you're really good at making jackets, there's not much more to do. And I got a little bored. Plus, my husband and I wanted to live by the mountains. And that job is very much like in office because you have to fit on a fit model with a team. And I don't know, who wants to work in an office anymore? So I said goodbye to that job and picked up coding. About a year and a half ago, I started dabbling with like your beginner, like free code camp, like CSS, HTML courses. And that really came to me quickly and I really enjoyed it. And there's actually a lot of parallels, which I can talk about if you're interested later, to making jackets. And then after I sort of like solidified that like this is a good plan, I kept trucking and quit my job and did a boot camp full time. That wrapped at the end of February. And since then I've been applying for jobs and studying and moving and I've been a busy bee. And now I'm excited to collaborate with some people who are not in the same boot camp because they're all different. So I'm curious how everybody else has been taught to do things. I'll pass it to Tim.
Thanks. Yeah, this is so many exciting stories. Yeah, my name's Tim Taylor, he, him pronouns. I'm located in Los Angeles, California. I currently work for the Seattle Kraken hockey team. I basically build tooling for the front office, just a pretty fun gig. And then in a past life before that, I was originally like a woodworker. And I worked in restaurants, and I'm also a musician and kind of got into creative coding through the music side of things. And yeah, and then I was just kind of looking for a career path that was a little more sustainable than woodworking and restaurant work. And so I just started learning to code, and I'm totally self-taught. I used the Odin project to learn how to code in Ruby originally, but now I'm pretty much 100% like JavaScript and React, and then Lua kind of on side projects. And yeah, that's pretty much the story. Let me pass it to Hanson.
Hi everyone, my name is Hanson. It's nice to meet everybody here. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm based out of sunny Phoenix, Arizona. I guess pretty warm out here, as you can guess. Let's see. So my coding experience, or actually, I have experience in, funny enough, I was a nail technician in the beauty industry. And then I transitioned into becoming a personal trainer. And ever since the pandemic, the last year or so, I've been learning how to code through free online resources. I finished my bootcamp experience through 100 Devs, if you guys ever heard of them. And now I'm here looking to collaborate and fill in the gaps I have in my education so far. And I'm excited to be here. And I'll pass it on to Viviana.
Hi everyone, I'm Viviana, pronouns she, her. I'm from Tulare, California. For my coding experience, I started teaching myself how to code during my undergrad because I did not like my major at all. And then when I graduated, it was during the pandemic, so I took like the first WordPress job I could get, hated it, left, joined the Collab Lab. It was like a year ago, I think. Yeah, and now I have the job I have now because of Collab Lab, which is really exciting. And now I primarily just code in Rust, which is a lot of fun. So I'm excited for this to be to get back into React because I do miss it. So this will be nice.
Awesome. You all have really interesting backgrounds. And we're spread out all over, which is going to, well, we found a time, which is great. But great. So for today, I'm just going to start off kind of recapping really quickly what was said in the main meeting just to make sure we're all on the same page and in case anyone has questions. And then Tim is going to do a learning module, and then Viviana will introduce the issues. And don't let me forget, we should get the pairs set up with branches so that everybody is ready to go at the end of this meeting. So, okay, let me see if I can, Viviana, can I share my screen? Okay, cool. So as Stacy mentioned, I wanted to actually, no. Okay, we'll just start here. As Stacy mentioned, this is the general cadence. So since we're meeting on Sundays, ideally, if you can meet with your pairs in the next few days, Monday through Wednesday, you don't have to, but it sets you up for success if you do that, to kind of go over your issue together and submit a pull request so the other team can review it. And then once that's anything that needed to be changed has been done, you can tag the mentors, and at least one of us will review it each week. We're kind of rotating, but the others might also just add extra comments for fun. And then once you've gotten through, it's been approved by mentors who are acting as like the product managers here, project managers, then you can go ahead and merge it. And then each Sunday going forward, we will have a demo at the beginning where you can kind of show off your code and also show off the feature itself. This is good practice for when you're doing technical interviews and you want to talk through either the technical challenge, Lizzie, a technical challenge that you're presenting, or you can also use the videos because each of these will be recorded so that you can review it if you have to miss a weekly sync, but also if you want to show how you demonstrate code and work together. So are there any questions about that so far? Okay, cool. And next, has everyone here, I'm trying to just expand it so I can see you all. Has everyone here made a pull request before, or is that new for anybody?
It's new for me. I've worked in GitHub plenty, but never done a pull request.
Okay, yeah. So so this is an example pull request from a past cohort that I was working with, and what's really great is they have a template already set up for you. So when you go to create a pull request, you'll see a space to leave a description, related issues, acceptance criteria. So you're pulling directly from that ticket. You're indicating the types of changes, and since you're doing a lot of UI work, you can show what before or afters will look like, so that people know what to expect. And finally, how to test in QA. So if there's something, if you've added a new package or something, you can say, hey, you have to run npm install, there's a new dependency, etc. The more detailed you can be in this, the more likely it is you will have your reviews done faster, because people will have to work less hard to review your work. So yeah, do your best to just be as detailed as possible here. And then you can kind of see some conversations. Oh, this is an automatic thing. It will deploy a preview of your PR. So you can view this in, I think this one is still, oh, it's probably too old. You can preview your work live, but in general, when you are reviewing someone else's code for this, it's best to try to pull it down locally, just so that you can really get into the code instead of just relying on the live site. So once you go through this, you can actually see the file changes here. And you can go through each one and leave a comment specifically. If you see, for instance, a function that you think could be done more efficiently, or you catch something that a little bug or something, you can leave a comment right there, so that it's really easy for your colleagues to figure out what you're talking about. And there is a way to, if you're going to leave multiple comments, you can, I think it's once you start adding, you can either do start review or add a single comment. If you add a single comment, it'll ping them each time. If you start a review at the end, it'll ping them in one go. So those are just little hints for the PRs. When you go to create a PR, so it'll look like this, like you're doing it in Markdown. When you go to create a PR, if you're not ready yet to actually assign it to your other pair, you can create a draft PR. So this is good if you want to get something down quickly before you forget, but you still need to finish it later. You can go ahead and create a draft PR. And I think that's basically my whole spiel for what's going forward. So if we don't have any other questions, then I will pass it over to Tim.
Sweet. All right. I realized I forgot to say in my introduction that I also was a Collabby in TCL 42. So got a bunch of past Collabbies here as mentors, which I feel like is very cool. All right, I'm going to set up a little slideshow and share my screen. So we're going to be talking about Git today. I saw that everyone seems to have, can everyone see that? Good, sweet. Seems like everyone is pretty active on GitHub, at least. So I would assume that most of us know the basics of Git, but I think it's good to get on the same page. And also, you know, the experience of working with Git with multiple people is very different than kind of working on your own projects. So I think it's good to just make sure everyone knows kind of the general commands, and we're going to talk about, you know, the kind of the terminal commands. I'm not sure if people are using like VS Code with like their built-in UI for Git or not, but I think it's good to have have some of the fundamentals with the general commands. So yeah, we're going to be talking about creating and switching branches with Git checkout, staging changes with Git add, saving changes in history with Git commit, sending changes to GitHub using Git push, getting the latest changes with Git pull, and then getting changes into main with PRs, which you talked about a little bit, and we'll be talking about code reviews around the PRs, I think in the next learning module. But yeah, some Git terms. Repo is the directory that has all the files that Git uses. Remote is the basically where the repo is hosted. And we call that the origin. So if you have a local branch that's called like feature branch, then the version of that branch, assuming you've pushed it up to the remote, is going to be called origin/feature branch. And a branch is a working copy of the repo. And the main branch is the source of truth. You sometimes call it, you know, prod or production, but that's what the site is being built off of, is the main branch. Commit is a set of changes to the repo, and head refers to the last commit that was made. So you'll see some Git commands that use the head option, like if you do a git reset head, then that'll reset the commits to where they were in the last commit that was made. And then pull request, PR, and this is specific to GitHub, but it documents why changes should merge with main. And yeah, it might be called a merge request in a different service or even something else. So here's kind of imagine this as a before and after. So the top branch is your before, and the bottom line is kind of after we make changes. So you're at the add button commit, and then you make a branch off of that. And then say you add a couple commits to that. But then somebody else who's also making commits pushes up some of their commits to the original branch. And then what happens at that point is the Git merge process, where the feature branch, add styles, add tests, gets pushed into the main branch. But there might be conflicts, there might not be conflicts. But either way, we're going to figure out and tell Git how to handle both branches such that we end up with a single branch at the end. And then you'll see at the bottom, this is actually how the commits would end up looking at that point. So even though update text is kind of made in between, you know, two commits that you had made locally, because you pushed your two commits after update text was put on the main, they will be located after it. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to holler. Some commands. So yeah, branching. Git checkout is the best command for branches at this point. And so yeah, you can either create a new branch by using the -b flag, or you can check out a branch that already exists with Git checkout. And Git checkout actually has some other features in it too, if you don't want to dive deep. But I think these two, just using Git checkout with branches, is the simplest way to just switch branches. And then staging changes. So yeah, if you make any changes to a file or you create a new file, you'll want to add those files to the stage. And stage is kind of like, it's the queue that you create, where it's the queue that you're going to use to commit any files that are there. And so, yeah, you can stage a single file by just adding it directly with the file path, or you can stage all files that have had changes made, or if a file was created. Git commit is, we'll take any staged changes and commit them to Git. This creates a saved record of changes to the code base, and you can see that in your Git logs, a list of commits that were made. So yeah, you can, if you make Git commit without any options, then it'll open up your terminal editor, which will probably be like Vim or VI or something like that. But you can also give it an inline message using the -m flag, where whatever you type in quotes will be the message that the commit has as its header. And then yeah, git command -am will both take all staged and tracked files. So tracked files is basically something that you previously staged in Git and added to Git, but say you made changes to it, then using a git commit -am will add those to the commit with a message. And then yeah, once you have a commit on your local branch and you want to send that to the remote branch, you can use git push. And this first command that's shown here on the left, git push -u origin cool feature, also sets the upstream remote, which basically means that the first time you have to use this git push -u, but then the next time you don't have to specify the origin or the branch name on that specific, if you're located on that branch, because Git knows what the upstream remote is. It gets kind of set as a default. But you can also just always git push origin branch name. That's kind of the recipe there. And again, origin refers to the remote repo. Getting the latest changes by git pull. This is obviously always a good idea. I think it says it's a good habit here to pull the latest main, but I would say that's even a bit of an understatement. It's just, something that you should do. Anytime you're going to be making feature branches off of main. So, anytime before you make a new feature branch, just git pull to make sure that you're branching off from the latest point. And you can also use, if you're the kind of person who just like wants to know what's happening before you pull in, you can git fetch, which will basically, it won't pull in the files that have changed, but it'll let you know what those changes are. So you can use like a git fetch and then a git status, and then it'll tell you like what the differences are between your two branches, and then you can pull those in once you're like satisfied that it seems reasonable. But plenty of people just git pull and usually works fine. And then yeah, PRs. So we talked about this a little bit a moment ago, but this is how you'll see when you're working with GitHub. When you git push, it'll recommend that you create a pull request effectively. And so you can either do that, from a few different places. If you're on GitHub looking at if you go to the branch view in GitHub, there'll be like a make pull request button on the side. And then, but yeah, I think also just when you push into the terminal, this is the way I normally do it at least, is it'll actually give you in the response to your git push, if it's a new branch, there'll be an actual GitHub link that you can just grab or click on. And that'll automatically open up this page that you're seeing in front of you. And then, yeah, we're talking about merge conflicts, which is going to happen when we're working in a collaborative nature. If multiple people are making feature branches that touch the same file, there are just going to be conflicts, and they're really not a big deal. It's really a part of the workflow. But I think it's just important to note that, when you're when you're working collaboratively, I think one of the things we're going to talk about a lot is just being really clear with your communication on Slack so that everyone knows like what files are being worked on. Because there are worlds in which you can avoid conflicts just by talking to people ahead of time. Which if your team gets to a certain size and the code base gets to a certain complexity, that might not be possible. So it's also good just to know that conflicts happen, and they're usually pretty straightforward to solve, actually, once you get used to this kind of crazy looking syntax on your left here. Yep, yeah, I think I covered pretty much everything there. And then, these are some probably slightly outdated resources at this point. Google, Stack Overflow, these are all things that I'm sure you've used a lot. The Atlassian Git tutorials, I think, are really good. The Git documentation from the actual Git site is super dry and not enjoyable. So I would say that's like your last resort. But it's got some stuff in there. And then, just talk to the people you're working with about Git, about what you're trying to do. And, now I'm sure many of you have tried like throwing it into some sort of chat GPT sort of thing, and they actually usually have pretty good responses around Git. So yeah, anyone have any questions?
Hey, Tim, could you clarify when, because I did recently start a project with another person on Git, and I learned the process was, before I get started working on my local branch, I pull the most recent requests from the main, and then I switch and check out my local or whatever branch I'm working on again, and then I have to rebase.
Okay, yeah. So if you want to continually keep your local feature branch like up to date with main, then rebase is an option. I feel like that's an advanced move that I don't think we necessarily have to do, but if you're working on a team where that's expected, then I would say definitely do it. And so what you're doing there is effectively you're taking the commits that you've made on your feature branch and you're rebasing them onto the latest version of the main branch. And so if you, like you said, you pull in the like main changes, check out your branch, and then from your branch you would do git rebase -i main or whatever it is, and that a lot of times actually will just work without conflict, if changes that don't conflict with the changes that you've made have happened. But if there are conflicts, they're usually pretty straightforward. Because assuming you're making relatively small changes at a time. Does that answer your question? I don't know.
So for this purpose, we don't necessarily need to do that extra step.
So the only reason that you're doing a rebase like that is to basically clean up your Git history. And that's like a really personal kind of thing, whether you want your Git history to be clean or not. Like the team that I work on, we 100% don't really care about our Git history being like spotless. So we're just, we will merge like the main branch into our feature branches multiple times, and those show up as commits. And if you're OCD about commits, it might be uncomfortable. But in the end, it doesn't really matter as long as everyone's on the same page. So I think it's on some level like an aesthetic choice. But it's really up to whatever your team prefers, I suppose.
Okay, thanks. That's super helpful.
Cool. Sweet. Anything else?
I had a question. So when it comes to working with the draft pull requests, will we do all that work on our feature branch, and then when we submit the PR, instead of the PR, it's the draft pull request, and then when we're ready, we convert
so
the PR?
Exactly. So you'll just start off like, right, the first time you work and make your new branch, you'll just push that up to remote to make sure that whatever work you've done is saved somewhere that's not just your computer. And then when you do that, I think you just want to go in and make a draft pull request, just to have that up there. And then once it's at a point where you're comfortable like getting code reviews, then you just convert it to a normal pull request.
Okay, thank you.
And we can like, once a merge conflict happens, which I think might be like the third or fourth week, we can talk more about merge conflicts like as they show up. Maybe do something hands-on to like see how it works. But yeah. Cool. Well, yeah, I think if there's no more questions, I'll pass it on to Viviana for assigning issues.
Cool. That was really great, Tim. I learned a lot, honestly. I'm terrible at Git still to this day. So I have so many horror stories of messing up and having to message like a senior dev to help me. Oh, no shame in that. Okay, so I'll share my screen. Cool. Okay, so I think this is the exciting part because you guys get your issues. So for week 1, issue 1 will be for Yufa and Elizabeth, and then issue 2 will be Hanson and Olivia. So those are your pairs for this cycle. So we'll look at issue 1. Let me see. Okay, so here's our user story. As a user, I want to read the names of all of the items in my shopping list. So there's a lot of text, but it's not too bad. The most important feature of our app is the ability to look at what's on the list so the user knows what to buy. So you're going to have a list component. And they already have this partially implemented, which is really nice. Let's see. So part of the acceptance criteria is already done. Let's see. The list component is rendered on the list page because the navigation links are currently broken. You'll have to type that into your browser's address bar. So yeah, I'm sure you guys have all already looked at the app, but if you just are here, you'll notice that the navigation links aren't working because that's what issue 2 is covering. So for those of you that are working on issue 1, you'll just have to go to the list like that to see your changes. Okay. So for the acceptance criteria, the first 2 are done for you, and then you'll have to focus on the last one. So the first one is saying the stream lists item, which we'll look at. It's used in app.jsx to get the items from the Firestore database. So let's look at that before I keep doing that. Yeah. So you're in app.jsx. I'll let you guys like look around for this for sure. But you'll see here, this is a function that's interacting with the database. So that's already all set up with you, which I think is really nice that that's usually how it will be in the real world. So you're already getting the data from Firestore, and then here where it's passed down to list, you'll go over here, and then here is where the work is that you'll have to do. So here's where you're going to have to do write some JavaScript to render the data array using the list item component. So you won't be needing to touch list item JSX, as it's just going to be printing out this list item. So all the work you have to do should just be here in list JSX. I think that's, so let's see what it says. Yeah, I think I covered that. And some important notes is you might be tempted to maybe add more information that's needed, but really all right now that you have to do is just put the name of the item and that's it. So we'll give you like more work to do with that later on. So I think I went over that really quickly, but yeah, if you guys have any questions, go ahead.
Could you walk us through a little bit of like, what does the workflow look like? So we're working with a partner.
Yeah.
Both of us submit a pull request?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So it's going to be 1 pull request per pair. So we're going to have you guys figure out how to pair program on your own before we tell you like the preferred method to do it. But you guys are going to meet. One of you will make the branch, and how Tim said, push up to the origin, make the draft pull request, and then one of you will be, well, yeah, one of you will be the driver, the other one will be the one like watching, and you'll just take turns like that. Yeah. Cool. Any other questions for issue 1? No? Okay.
I was thinking of just saying real quick that like with these first 2 issues, I think it's like part of the issue is just also just like everyone, reading the code base and getting super familiar with what's going on. Because yeah, since it's kind of set up in this way that there's some pre-existing functionality, it's like you're coming into a team who already has code, then yeah, kind of just, reading code is more than half the job. So I think this is a good opportunity to do that, like kind of unsaid, but part of the issues.
Yeah, I agree. There wasn't set up like this when I was doing Collab Lab, so I like that there's like all this stuff set up for you that you have to read through. So yeah, a lot of this, like Tim said, is going to be maybe poking around in the Firebase documentation to see how even, where is it at? How this even works. They have it set up for you, but it's still really good to know how that all connects. So it'll be a lot of research that you'll have to be doing with your partner, which is the fun part, I think. Cool. Anything else? Is there anything else I missed, Lauren or Tim, with issue 1?
No, actually, do you just mind assigning them in the issue part?
Oh, no worries at all. Okay. So that's you for Elizabeth. Let me move. Okay.
Oh, it may be under
What?
Lizzie.
Oh, sorry.
LSECY.
Oh,
Thank
how
you.
do I get you? Liz. There you go. There you go. Okay. Looks good? Cool. All right. Okay. So we'll go to issue number 2. Let me assign it right now before I forget. So that's Hanson and Olivia. Let me do that. I'm here. And yeah. Okay. Cool. Okay, so moving on to issue number 2. So how we mentioned before, right now these navigation links don't work. So that's what you'll be focusing on for this issue. So for this user story, it's as a user, I want to be able to navigate to all the pages in the application by clicking the links in the nav bar. So users need to be able to navigate between the pages of our application in order to access all of its features. There's a navigation bar in Layout JSX, but it's not feature complete. The links in the nav element don't allow the users to navigate from page to page, as you all have seen. So the acceptance criteria that's been done is the nav element's been added to the layout component. And then we have the links. Yeah, the links are there, but the functionality isn't there. So we'll take a look at that right now. Yeah, so you'll see here, we have all these anchor tags, but that's not what we want to be doing. So I think they suggest, yeah, using React Router DOM to make that functional. So yeah, the only work you'll be doing is in Layout JSX. Yeah, okay. Any questions about that? Or anything I missed, Tim and Lauren? Okay,
No
this one's
cues,
pretty
but
straightforward.
Hanson, we got this.
Yeah, this one's like, honestly, this one's really nice. It's
Yeah.
just to make everyone's lives easier. So yeah.
I'm confident with this one.
Yeah, me
I'm
too. I love
excited.
React Router DOM. I'm stoked. Great first problem.
Okay, cool, awesome. All right, so then I think that's it for me. So I'll stop sharing.
Awesome. Tim, do you or were you
What's
gonna
that?
say
Yeah, I was just going to show. So there's a projects board now, which we could use. I don't know if people are familiar with this. I'll share my screen real quick to show you where it is. So this is on just our repo. So yeah, if you click on the projects tab into this link, we have kind of a workflow here that we can use. So, now that we've assigned the first 2, we can basically drag these into in progress.
Oh, cool. Similar to Trello.
Yeah, exactly. And so this week, once you've pushed up all your stuff and you've made a PR, you can go in and drag your card over to peer review. And so the idea is that both members of the other team are going to peer review your code first. And then once that happens, you can drag it over to the mentor review. And then also ping the mentors in Slack, being like, hey, our code's ready for a mentor review. And then we'll move it over to done and rinse and repeat for the rest of the weeks. But this is just a good way to stay organized a little bit.
awesome? Okay. So what worked well when I was a dev was actually they had us set up the branches right away, just in case to make sure everyone was getting off on the right foot. So can we actually have maybe someone from each team volunteer to share their screen and create the branch, just so that we can make sure everything's all right. Does anyone want to start?
I can start.
Cool.
You're cool, Lizzie?
Yep, totally. Go
I
ahead.
have it. Yeah, I have it open for some reason.
Awesome. Do you mind sharing your screen so we can all follow along?
Yep. So I have the terminal here. Oops, it's in Chinese. Let me change it. So just do git checkout.
And then in this,
B.
yep, perfect.
And I don't remember the naming. Is that our name?
I think they had your initials. So your initials
Okay.
dash Lizzie's initials dash an overview.
Okay. Lizzie Pine, right? And then what's the project name? I mean the task.
It was, as a user, I want to read the names of all the items on my shopping list.
Okay, maybe just names. Names of the items. How about that? Cool.
This also might be a good time to check whether you've pulled up the most recent changes or not. Do you know if you have?
Good question. I probably haven't.
So I don't know.
Then- Hit Paul.
Nice.
Cool. Thanks for reminding me. And then check out the okay, cool.
Great. And then do you mind pushing that up so that we can get have Lizzie pull it down?
Cool. To add first, right?
Well, in this case, since you haven't changed any files, well, you can try it. It wouldn't add anything else to be staged.
Okay. Just push.
Yeah, if you try git push, it'll actually prompt you with the longer command that Tim was mentioning earlier. That's my lazy way. I never remember so I just do git push and wait for it to go in.
Nice. Yeah. We don't need to remember this. Awesome.
Okay, great. And then maybe if someone from the other team wants to share their screen and do this to make sure, and Lizzie, while they're doing this for the second team, why don't you try to pull down and make sure you can get that branch?
Okay. If I just do pull from the main, is the branch already there? Even though stuff from that branch hasn't been merged, like the existence of the branch is in remote, right?
Yeah, so basically she push up a reference to this branch now into the cloud, and then you're pulling down the reference. So yeah, you're just pulling down what she you're getting the local branch now version of what was just pushed up.
Okay, great. I know what to do. Thank you.
Yep.
Cool. You want the other group to share?
Yeah, let's do Olivia or Hanson. Anyone?
Did you want to do it, Olivia, or do you want me to do it?
Oh, you're on mute, Olivia.
It's been how many years and I still forget. I can do it. I've got my terminal pulled up.
Okay.
Let's see, now I'm gonna, how do I, oh, it's the green button that says share screen. Okie dokies. I was following along, but I didn't hit enter. So I just did a pull from main. I think I got your initials right, Hanson.
Yeah.
HT.
Yes.
Cool. And then I just called it navbar. And then
Is it pulled already?
yeah.
Okay.
So that should be up there.
Nice. Looks good.
Cool.
Okay, great. And then just two more things. So here, no, I can't see because my screen was covered by Zoom. I'm just creating threads. So each week we'll pin these for you into channel. So this will be easy to locate up here. You can just go to your thread. But we ask that you keep any of your communication here. So it might get quite lengthy. For instance, in the beginning, you're probably trying to coordinate a time and then any research or something that you've done on the topic. But if you keep your work exposed here, it helps us a lot. If you run into an issue, we can kind of read back and read through the history. Yeah, so each week we'll just pin the new pairs and unpin these so that you can easily find these threads. And again, there's those quick links that you can do, or quick, I don't know what they're called, shortcuts that you can tag the group or just the mentors if you need something. So feel free to not be shy and tag us here. And especially if you're running into an issue and it takes longer than 15 minutes or whatever to figure out on your own, tag us because we don't want you going over those 5 hours. So we really want to make sure that this is a reasonable amount of time for everyone. And and the last thing was I think we found a time for Wednesday, but so the mentors will be rotating office hours. This week I'm starting off, and it's totally optional for you all, but it's just a place where we can either, if you have a merge conflict, for instance, we can go through that, or something with your issue. Some of the later weeks are a little trickier, so we can help with that, or we can just talk about early dev stuff and how finding jobs is really annoying. So, it can be used for whatever everyone wants it to be used for. But yeah, I think that's it. Did we forget anything, Viviana or Tim?
Oh, sounds good.
Sweet. Any other questions?
Do you have any recommendations for finding a mutual time to work with our pair programming partner?
I
think.
Go ahead, Tim. There you go.
I was just going to say, I think it's going to be, super individual to the pairs. Just whenever works for everybody. But like we said, it's nice to get most of that pair programming out of the way before Wednesday, especially before office hours, just in case problems do arise.
Yeah. So if someone has time on your team now to quickly send a message in that thread and get it going, if you can at least schedule it now or soon, then that'll set you up for the week. Awesome.
I'm open to just chat now and, we can chat, right? Are you available to chat really quick, Lizzie?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know scheduling is a hassle, emails, so we'll just chat live.
Okay, great. And do you all know how to use, I'm sure, everyone's used Slack, obviously, because I've seen you in the Slack, but do you know how to use the calls or the things like that? You can huddle with each other and not have to have your screen on. Have people used that before?
I love it.
Is Huddle just
I've
basically
never
like a
used
voice
Huddle.
channel?
Yeah, it's just exactly. I think they stole it from Discord.
Okay.
So you should be able to, let's see. You can select someone, and then if you turn this on, this is the huddle.
Mhm.
So it'll just open a little room for just your voice. And you can actually start a huddle with everybody. So if, for instance, you all wanted to get on and discuss PRs or something, or you tagged a mentor and they were like, oh yeah, I'm on, let's huddle. You can actually do this, and then anybody in this channel can join the huddle. So yeah. Okay, great. Well, have a lovely rest of your Sunday, especially those that it's a lot earlier for. I'm gonna go eat dessert and sleep. Um, but anyway, yeah, feel free to reach out if you have issues and otherwise I'll see whoever is available on Wednesday.
Yay. So nice to
Thank
meet
you
everyone.
all.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Nice to meet everybody.
Bye.
Thanks.
See you
Bye.
Wednesday.